Day, February 2nd. It was reported to us from every jurisdiction that they did transmit the ballots by the deadline, and that report also then gets communicated to the DOJ. The DOJ didn't have any follow-up questions with us. They accepted that our jurisdictions met the deadline, so that's good news. In previous years, probably about a decade ago now, we had been subject to a consent decree with the DOJ, so it's really an education series that we've had with the EAs. We continue to keep them in the loop as to meeting this deadline, and it's very important. So we can put that in the books for the primary, and we'll continue to transmit ballots that are requested after that fact, but it's just important that anything that had come in before the 45-day mark was complied with and transmitted at that deadline. The next general update is that the early voting period has begun. We've not been made aware of any major issues throughout the period from any jurisdictions. However, several jurisdictions have had to pause early voting as a result of ongoing judicial review cases. When a candidate is ordered to be added or removed to the ballot by a court, jurisdictions must reprint ballots and retest voting machines. To effectively do this, they are typically required to halt early voting for several days. Once the process is conducted and completed, early voting then resumes. So as you're aware, several SOEB matters are still proceeding through the judicial review process. The General Counsel's office is tracking that litigation daily, reports any decisions that require a ballot change to election operations staff. They transmit updated certifications to affected jurisdictions following those rulings, and then they go through the process of remaking, reprinting ballots, and then testing the equipment. So it's obviously a strange timing with the primary only a few weeks away that these decisions are not finalized and ballots can change. Not ideal during the early voting process, but it's just based on the timing of the calendar within the election code, and also the fact that early voting starts so soon in Illinois. Staff are drafting primary election day assignments. Staff will be scheduled from opening of the polls to closing of the polls, with staff available at least until 10 p.m., but usually we stay later depending on the day's activities. We'll have our usual reporting structure in place. We have established communication plans with federal and state partners, including the state's attorney's offices, the attorney general, state police, and every election authority throughout the state. So these communication plans urge central reporting of any election day issues and the timely transmission of those issues to any interested partners. Internally, we're improving our election day hotline reporting system to ensure that SB staff can review issues reported in real time, coordinate any response if necessary. Updates will be provided to leadership throughout primary election day, and we'll also notify members of any significant issues or concerns that arise during early voting or prior to election day. We'll obviously see you the day before the actual primary election day, so we can advise at that point if there's anything significant that we're seeing or that jurisdictions have reported. But as of right now, it's ongoing and it's quiet, which is good, but we'll let you know if anything arises. And at that point in time, that's pretty much where we're at for the preparations for the primary right now. There's also an election judge training school listing for your information. We have staff deployed all across the state conducting those election day, the judges training schools. They are conducted at the request of the jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions conduct their own, others request our staff come and assist. And we are happy to do that, so you'll see how many training schools have been scheduled and staff deployed to those locations.
Does it look like we're going to have enough?
Enough election judges. There is always a question of whether there will be enough. We have not had any significant shortages reported to us, but we could always use more. And so there's always the PSA put out, especially by the election authorities, that they would like more judges. They would like to have a backfill and a surplus so that if anybody cannot report that day, due to illness or, you know, a travel
Do we know how
issue.
many PSAs have been put out today?
No, we don't. I mean, it's conducted at the local level, so most of those election authorities do their local outreach. We post on social media, we let people know that they're always needed and what the process is, but all of it's conducted locally.
All of it's conducted locally. Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically the general report on the preparation. Happy to take any questions from the board if you're interested in anything specifically that's going on.
Any questions for Springfield, Madam Vice Chair?
No, ma'am.
Any questions for Mr. Chicago? Legislative update of Madam General Counsel? Madam Executive Director is yours.
Yes, that is it. So for the legislative update, we provided a listing of all the bills that are currently have been introduced with notations as to ones that are either SBE initiated or, you know, somehow affect us. As for the recent legislative activities, staff are just continuing to monitor essentially every bill that's introduced that could impact potentially elections operations, the agency, and have some sort of fiscal impact on the agency. We do an internal analysis from staff, relevant staff from every division will analyze, and then we compile that data and have it available. But to date, we have not identified any bills that require that the board, you know, take a position or have an immediate response other than providing just a general resource of how this might impact an election process or the agency. Staff intend to schedule a meeting with the legislative subcommittee in the next 2 weeks. We'll see how each of these bills are progressing, see where maybe we've been asked to provide more feedback than another bill, and we'll discuss those specific bills that are either likely to move or to have a more significant impact on election or agency operations. The final budget information is due this Friday, and we're waiting to hear on the scheduling of our budget hearings. Those budget hearings in both the House and the Senate typically occur in March or April, but we have not been notified of the date yet. So at this time, we're just watching everything, doing that analysis, and we'll keep the board in the loop if there's something that comes up that we might need to take a position. Otherwise, we're looking forward to working with the subcommittee in a couple weeks. We have a better idea of exactly what this legislative session could bring.
I have one question, Bernadette. Could you tell me again, when is our budget book due?
The ISLs are due Friday. And I believe then that would be the last that we're submitting as related to the budget.
Thank you.
And that's really it for the legislative update right now, unless there's other questions.
Next, please.
Okay, and the rest of the activity in my report, the rest of the information, voter registration activity, the grant funding update, and the 2-year plan of staff activity, they're all informational, but if there's any question related to that information, we're happy to address those.
Any questions, Madam Vice Chair from Springfield?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Moving on to number 6, other business. Is there any other business that anyone would like to bring forward to the board at this time? Hearing none, are there any slated and vetted comments from the general public at this time? Any there in Springfield, Madam Vice Chair?
No, ma'am.
None here in Chicago, or hearing none here in Chicago. Is there a motion to move to executive session for the purpose of discussing the minutes of January 11th, 2024 executive session meeting, the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, or dismissal of specific employees and pending litigation pursuant to appropriate section of the Open Meetings Act. Motion and second to move to executive session, please. Second. Roll call.
Croft?
Yes.
Ms. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Genovese?
Yes.
Ms. McCrory? Yes. Irvin? Brett?
Yes.
Donahue?
Yes.
Chair Watson?
Yes.